I bought a house in secret. And then I caught my sister and her husband dragging their belongings straight into my bedroom. Should I make a scene? No way. I smiled sweetly, waited until they left, and changed the locks. It was just the beginning. Driving up to the house after a 3-day business trip to Chicago, I felt like a squeezed lemon. Fatigue washed over me in waves. But the thought of my own little nest warmed my soul. In the sunset light, the 2-story cottage looked especially cozy. My home. The one I'd saved every penny for the past 5 years. 6 months of running around to title companies, checking documents, haggling with the seller, then 2 weeks of furnishing it, choosing every little detail from curtains to doorknobs. This was supposed to be my fortress. I'm 32, and I worked like crazy to get where I am. Unlike my older sister, Alyona, I didn't rush out of college and marry the first guy with a car. Unlike my parents, I didn't take out loans just to show off. I saved, took part-time jobs, and denied myself everything. And here it is, a house in the suburbs of a major city with a plot of land and a garage. The only person I told about the purchase was Grandma Zena, a saintly woman who has always been by my side. I left her a spare key. You never know. My parents would be furious if they found out about the house. They're the kind of people who believe their youngest daughter should support the whole family, not spend money on something as bland as their own place. Mom would start ranting about the family debt. Dad would calculate how much of his debt could be covered with my down payment. Alyona and Igor would immediately start whining about how cramped they were in their rented 1-bedroom apartment. So I kept quiet. Only Grandma Zena knew and promised to keep her mouth shut. So I nearly had a heart attack when I walked through the door and heard laughter coming from the kitchen. Well, she showed up. Alyona's voice rang out, dripping with malice. Just in time. Exactly. Igor chimed in. We've only just settled in here. I froze in the hallway, still clutching the keys. What the hell were they doing in my house? How did they even get in? Alyona materialized in the kitchen doorway, looking like the mistress of the estate. 5 months pregnant. The tight tunic accentuated her belly, and that signature smirk from childhood, when she could get away with anything. Look who's here. She drawled. So, was the business trip a success? What the hell are you doing in my house? My voice was harsher than intended. Igor emerged from behind her shoulder and leaned against the doorframe. He was holding a can of my imported beer. And that mug, I really wanted to punch you. Your house. Alyona lost her desire. But you're giving it to her. Since when did you keep secrets from your own family? What's wrong with you? This is my house. And you're uninvited guests. Oh. Don't be dramatic. Alyona rolled her eyes. We're family. That's what interests me. Why the hell did you hide the purchase? What kind of bastardism is this? There's pure indignation in her voice. As if it's my fault for not reporting it. I don't owe anyone any explanations. You run away immediately. Igor chuckled and took a sip of beer. Relax. Dash. We're not going anywhere. Someone has to teach you family values. Family values. You broke into my house. We didn't break in. Alyona spoke with exaggerated patience, like someone naturally retarded. We discovered your secret and took advantage of what we were supposed to get in the first place. How did you even get here? Igor smirked as Mowgli. Elementary. We saw the photos on Grandma Zena's phone when Alyonka visited her. You were posing outside the house, proud as a peacock. It gave me a chill. Grandma took those photos when she came to see the house. She was so happy for me. Clicking away at the kitchen door in the living room, we immediately reported your antics to our parents. Elena continued, her voice taking on an accusatory tone. They agreed that since someone so secretive and selfish would likely have left the spare keys at Granny's. So what do you think? Binga, did you steal the keys from Granny? We took what we needed. Igor shrugged. Grandma Zena is already a bit of a sclerotic. Don't worry. She didn't notice. I looked around the living room and felt sick. Someone else's jackets were hanging by the door. Alyona's bag was on the coffee table. Through the kitchen doorway, I could see dirty dishes in the sink. Delivery boxes from Uber Eats were on the countertop. Where are my things? I asked, dreading the answer. Alyona's grin widened. They'd moved us to the guest room. The master bedroom has more space and light, and we, with our bellies. Need it more. It makes sense. Right. She spoke as if explaining the obvious. Fury welled up from somewhere in her stomach. Hot and suffocating. Get out. Right now. Or I'll call the police. Aliona screamed as if she'd just heard the joke of the year. The police? Lovely. And what can you say that my pregnant sister came to visit? This isn't a guest house. This is my home. Without letting me finish, she snatched up her phone and hit speed dial. Mom. Alina's voice rang out in the silence. Yeah. Dasha's here. She's freaking out. Talk to her. My mother's voice on the other end of the line grew louder. I gloomily demanded to put her on speakerphone. Aliona grinned and pressed the button. Daria. Mom's voice filled the room. Stop being hysterical. Your sister is pregnant. They need help. And instead of offering like a normal person, you're secretly buying up houses. Mom, this is my house. I don't want to hear anything. Dad's voice came from the background. Aliona told him everything. You have 3 rooms, and your pregnant sister has nowhere to live. Period. I looked at Aliona and Igor. They were enjoying the moment. This is exactly what they wanted. Wonderful. I said quietly. Simply wonderful. Aliona blossomed. What a clever girl. I knew you'd come to your senses. We'll arrange everything here as a family. Don't worry. We'll find a compromise. Igor added magnanimously. I grabbed my suitcase and headed upstairs to what was now, apparently, my guest room. Behind me, Alina was reporting to Mom that I finally understood and everything would be fine. As I unpacked the guest room, not for me. Damn it. Not for the mistress of the house, I started planning. Alina and Igor thought they'd won. They thought I'd given up. They don't even know what they've gotten themselves into. This is my house. Bought with my money. I won't let it be taken away. The night passed in a frenzy. Every sound infuriated me to the point of shivers. Alina's laughter from my bedroom. Igor's footsteps thundering across my parquet floor. The TV blaring until 1 in the morning in my living room. They acted like they owned the place. And I acted like an uninvited guest. By morning, the plan had finally come together. I got dressed as usual, stomping loudly so they could hear, coming downstairs. I found a couple at my kitchen table, eating my granola from my bowls and swilling coffee from my fancy coffee machine. I poured coffee into a thermos and grabbed my bag. I'll be staying late today. The project is on hold at work. Of course. Dear. Alina didn't even look up. We'll probably order pizza here. I left the house and went to the office. But instead of plunking down at the computer, I headed straight to my boss. Ms. Smith, I need a vacation. Family reason. Just a week. She signed the application without asking any questions. I've been working hard for 5 years without a vacation. I have the right. The next stop was a car rental 3 blocks from the office. I took a nondescript gray Ford Focus instead of a Honda Civic. Alina and Igor would definitely recognize my red Kia, but I doubt they'd recognize this car. I returned home and parked at a Starbucks a couple of blocks away. From there, the entire street was in full view. A crazy plan. Of course. But what could I do? Alina was pregnant, which meant she'd be clinging to the house like a tick. First, they need a big bedroom, then a nursery. And before you know it, they'll evict me to a fold-out bed in the closet. The witch called the locksmith from the rental car. Tom. Hi. Here's the deal. I'm ready to rush over at the drop of a hat and change all the locks in the house. I'll pay double. Dasha. What are you thinking? It'll take too long to explain. Can you do it? Well, bring the locks with you. What kind do you have? Damn. I didn't think about it. Give me a set. I'll pay for everything. I hung up and got ready to spy. Yes. I really did buy binoculars at that same store. I'm completely nuts. I can see the house perfectly. Alionka's Honda next to Igor's wrecked Ford pickup in my driveway. Like family. For 3 days, I was stuck in that parking lot every morning after they saw me leave for work. And for 3 days, they didn't come out once. Food deliveries from DoorDash. Groceries for couriers from Instacart. Even some boxes from U-Haul. Looks like they're moving things. Those bastards are really getting set up. I was starting to think I'd have to call the fire department. I even Googled the number. wondering if they'd get me into trouble for this. On the fourth day, a miracle happened. Alina and Igor came out of the house, stood on the porch. Looking around, Elena pointed at the street, checking to see if my car was there. Then they got into the Ford pickup and drove off. I didn't even wait for them to disappear around the corner. I dialed the video on the run. Come on. Come over. I'm on my way right now. Tom arrived 15 minutes later with a suitcase of tools and a box of new locks. A golden man. We went to the same high school. He always helped out. What kind of detective is this? He asked. Opening the front door, my sister and her husband had moved in without asking. They thought they owned the place now. The key worked like a charm. The front door, the back door, the garage door, new locks, new handles, everything new. 2 hours later, the stolen keys were worthless scrap metal. After he left, I walked through the house, gathering up Aliona and Igor's junk, clothes, makeup, that stupid pregnancy pillow, Igor's tools, all in a pile. I stuffed them into their suitcases and dragged them out to the garage. And then I did something a little nasty. I left the garage key right by the door. Let them find it. I dragged my things back into the master bedroom, remade the bed, and put everything back in its place. For the first time in 4 days, I breathed freely in my own home. Around 5 p.m. 2 hours before my usual return, I heard the roar of a Ford pickup in the driveway. I watched from my bedroom window. Aliona, with a bag of Chinese takeout, was apparently planning another evening at my restaurant. Igor stuck the key in the lock and turned it. Silence. He tried again, tugging at the handle. No use. What the hell, I heard. Aliona pushed him away and tried her key. Same result. They went around the house, checked the back door, came back and started pounding on the front door. Dasha. Aliona screamed. Open up immediately. We know you're in there. I cracked the window so I could talk through the mosquito net. Your things are in the garage. She shouted down. The key is at the door. What have you done? Aliona's voice rose to a screech. I changed the locks. This is my house. You are unwanted guests here. You have no right. Of course I do. Aliona immediately snatched the phone. I knew who she was calling. Mom. Her voice carried down the entire street. Dasha changed the lock. She kicked us out of the house. Even I could hear my mother's screams on the phone. But I didn't care. Let them freak out as much as they wanted. Alina and Igor screamed and banged on the door for another half hour until they finally gave in. They grabbed the suitcases from the garage and left. Igor threw things into the back of the car with such anger that the Ford pickup rocked. Alina stood on the lawn and ranted about how much I'd regret this. After they left, I turned off the phone. I knew my parents would start calling, and I wasn't prepared for this circus. The security company arrived this morning. The technician, a man named Rob, didn't ask any questions when I ordered the full package. Sensors for all windows and doors, cameras around the perimeter, and everything would be sent to my phone. Are you expecting any problems? Something like that. The system is top-notch. Cameras everywhere. Motion sensors. Alarms. Rob showed me the app. How to view recordings. How to set up notifications. 2 weeks. Silent. Paranoid. I checked the cameras, but none of my family was nearby. I was starting to think they'd left me alone. Then Grandma Zina called. Dashenka, come over for lunch on Sunday. I'll make your favorite pot roast. Something in her voice was alarming. We'll be alone. Well, my parents will come, and Aliona. That's it. Grandma. I don't want to see Aliona now. Oh, honey, I know you two had a fight, but we're family. We need to talk like normal people. I wanted to refuse, but she was Grandma Zina, the only one who always supported me and didn't nag me about my selfishness. If she thinks we can come to an agreement, fine. But if Aliona starts acting up, I'll leave. Everything will be fine. Darling, I'll be home by 4. On Sunday, I went to see my grandmother in the old neighborhood. Her 2-bedroom apartment, covered in photographs of her grandchildren, smelled of baked goods and bay leaves. Her pot roast is sacred. My parents and Alyona were already sitting in the living room, but something immediately alerted me. Igor wasn't there. Where was Igor? Dad quickly answered the interview. A good spot had come up. He couldn't miss it. It was suspiciously convenient, but I kept quiet. We sat down at the table. The first 20 minutes were almost peaceful. Grandma asked about work. Mom told stories about her book club. Dad whined about sciatica. Even Alina behaved herself, complaining about morning sickness and asking about names. I was already relaxing when my phone vibrated. A security alert. Movement at the main entrance. I opened the app under the table and almost choked. Igor was on the porch with a toolbox and new lock. Judging by the box, they had planned it all. They lured me out so Igor could break in calmly. Sorry. I need to go, I said, getting up from the table. Everything's fine, dear. Grandma Zina looked at me with genuine concern. I glanced around at the family. Mom's eyes were innocent, but there was a hint of guilt in them. Dad was staring at his plate as if it were the eighth wonder of the world. Alyona could barely contain her satisfied grin. You set me up, I said quietly. Mom immediately bristled. Daria, we just wanted to talk as a family. You lied to me. I looked at Grandma. Her expression was one of bewilderment. Did you know what you knew? Grandma Zina was confused. I showed her the phone screen with the camera footage. Igor's fiddling with the locks on my porch. While you're here feeding me pot roast, Igor's breaking into my house. Alyona's fake smile vanished. Dasha, calm down. Let's talk. No, really. I'm calling the police. I headed for the door. Stop. Alyona jumped up. You can't. I'm pregnant. Stress is bad for the baby. You should have thought of this earlier. When we were starting this scam, I was dialing 911 when the phone rang. Security company, Daria Pavlovna. This is the security console. Your alarm has gone off. Call the police. Alyona burst into tears. Please, Dasha, don't. Igor will go to jail. Mom started screaming about my cruelty and vindictiveness. Dad muttered something conciliatory, like, let's sort this out without the police. But then Grandma Zina stood up. Her voice cut through the din. You're all liars and thieves. You used me to deceive Dasha. They stole my keys. Get out of my house. That's it? Mom tried to object. Mom, you don't understand. That's it. I understand. Fraudstas. Get out immediately. Alena sobbed, begging me not to call the police. Security called back. I answered. Daria Pavlovna. False alarm. I messed up the keys. Cancel the call. Alina breathed a sigh of relief. But I didn't finish. If you try again, I'll file a complaint. No cancellations. I hugged my grandmother and headed for the exit. She followed me out onto the porch. Forgive me. Darling, I didn't know what they were planning. I know, Granny. It's not your fault. Can you handle them? I glanced back through the glass door. Alyona and her parents were already squabbling among themselves, trying to figure out how the plan had failed. I can handle it. Grandma Zina chuckled. It's not the first time. A week after Grandma's pot roast, I finally threw a housewarming party, the one I'd been planning for months. I invited all the important people, colleagues, classmates, neighbors, and, of course, Grandma Zina. My parents and Alyona weren't on the guest list. The house turned out to be perfect for parties. The guests admired the kitchen, living room, a spacious plot, and terrace. My friend Karen brought her husband and kids. The boys ran around the yard while the adults drank wine on the veranda. A gorgeous house, said Mike from the sales department. I'm proud of it, I replied. And it was true. For the first time since buying it, the house truly felt like mine. Grandma Zina stayed late, helping clean and doing the dishes, as always. You're a good girl, Dashenka. You deserve a home like this. Thank you for standing up for me back then. You should have done so sooner. I sensed something was wrong when Alyona was going through my phone. But I never thought my own family was capable of such a thing. We finished the dishes in comfortable silence. After she left, I sat in the living room with a glass of wine. Finally. Peace. My family had been silent for 4 months. No calls. No messages. No random visits. The cameras only showed the delivery drivers and the neighbors' dog walkers. I started to think they'd abandoned me. And then Elena gave birth. And I found out from Facebook, like all strangers, a photo of a wrinkled baby with dark hair and a nose like Igor's. Caption, "Welcome to the world. Artyomka. Mom and Dad adore you." I stared at the photo for a long time. He's a sweet baby. All babies are sweet. But I didn't feel anything special. Technically, he's my nephew. But Elena made it seem like we were strangers. A week later, I received a message on Facebook. I almost deleted it without reading it. But curiosity got the better of me. Dash. I know we haven't spoken since then. But I wanted you to see Artyomka. I'm sorry it happened. Igor and I were completely desperate back then. I know it's no excuse. But my hormones were raging. And we didn't know what to do. We're now living with Igor's parents. He got a job as a foreman at a construction company. And we're saving up for a rented apartment. I understand if you hate us, but I hope we can make up someday. Artyomka must know his aunt. I've attached 3 more photos. A sleeping child with a baby face. Looking at the camera with the unfocused gaze of a newborn. I stared for a long time, then replied, "Congratulations on the birth of your son. He's a beautiful baby. I'm glad Igor found a job and you're getting back on your feet, but I'm not ready to pretend everything is fine. You let me down badly, and it won't be forgotten, but I don't hate you. You, sister, even when you annoy me. Maybe someday we'll be a family again. But everything has to be different. In the meantime, I'll send Artyomka a gift. Take care." I wasn't ready to let them back in. Not after everything. But maybe with time, if she learns to respect boundaries, things will work out. I ordered a newborn set on Amazon. Not fancy, but nice. A blanket, a bodysuit, a rattle, a giraffe. I sent it to Igor's parents with a postcard. "Welcome, Artyomka, from Aunt Dasha." Elena didn't reply, but 2 days later she posted a photo of Artyomka wearing the blue onesie with elephants she'd given him. She didn't tag me or mention the gift, but I recognized the item. That's enough for now. Life has taken on a new course. I like the house more and more with each passing day. I planted a vegetable garden, mastered some fancy equipment, and started inviting guests over for dinner. My colleagues became friends, not just co-workers. I dated men a couple of times. Nothing serious, but it was nice to be able to choose without worrying about family drama. Grandma Zina came over a couple of times a month. We cooked together and pottered around in the garden. She didn't mention my parents or Elena unless I asked. I'm especially grateful for that. She became my true family. The only person who supported my choices without trying to change them. A year after Artyom's birth, I received another message from Elena. It was brief. "Artyom started walking yesterday. I thought you might find it interesting." The video was attached. The wobbly toddler takes 3 uncertain steps, flops down on his diapered bottom, and claps his hands. "Wow. How's he grown?" I replied. "Not much, but at least something. A small crack in the wall between us. I don't know if Elena and I will ever be close again. Too much has happened. Too many boundaries have been violated. But maybe we can at least learn to communicate normally. Maybe Artyom will grow up knowing he has an aunt who loves him. Even if his relationship with his mother is difficult. My parents never called. Sometimes it hurts late at night. When you're alone in a big house, but I built the life I wanted. Surrounded by people who respect me. That's enough. I won back my home. But most importantly, I won back my independence. Alyona and Igor tried to use me. It didn't work. My parents chose her side. I chose mine, and I don't regret a thing. Story 2. After inheriting the apartment, my husband said, "I'll sell it. You give me your savings. We'll buy a dacha and a car." I reluctantly agreed. He'd disappear there for days. I thought he'd started cheating, using change as a cover, but it turned out to be much worse. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and leave any comments. Your support helps us grow the channel and share even more stories with you. Enjoy listening. Lesia came home as soon as she could. She had to ask for time off from practice. But when she heard her grandmother, Vera Lvovna, speak, she knew she had to go immediately. Vera Lvovna opened the door. She looked worried. "How's Mom? Come and see for yourself." Lesia entered the room. Her mother, Uliana Nikolaevna, was lying on the bed. Her hair was disheveled, her face swollen from crying. She was in her nightgown, but it was clear she hadn't slept. The woman buried her face in the pillow and didn't even notice Lesia had entered. "Mom, stop crying." Lesia rushed to her. "I came as soon as I could. I can't. My life is over. I'll give it all up. I regret nothing." Uliana sobbed so hard her voice broke. Lesia and her grandmother exchanged glances and, without a word, decided they needed to take matters into their own hand. Uliana Nikolaevna worked as a nurse at the city hospital. She was a gentle, kind woman, always attentive to her patients. She performed injections, dressings, and IVs quickly and painlessly. For this, her patients loved her and her colleagues respected her. She lived with her daughter. Her divorce from her husband was a thing of the past. Her daughter grew up dreaming of becoming a doctor, to help people like her mother. By the age of 15, Lesia had made her decision and was diligently preparing for her exams with the support of her mother and grandmother. And their life seemed calm and measured until one day, a pensioner was admitted to the hospital where Uliana Nikolaevna worked. A man named Roman often came to see her. He was visiting his mother and immediately noticed the nurse with the light touch his mother had mentioned. At first, Roman thanked her for her work, then began visiting her as if he were visiting her, not his mother. By the time she was discharged, Roman had even taken on a playful tone. "Ulianoka, my dear, you're so wonderful. You're a truly divine nurse. Your hands are like angel wings. Roman, you flatter me." Uliana Nikolaevna blushed, unaccustomed to such overt attention from men. However, the motives for the affair soon became more obvious. "You would be like coming home to my mother. She hates hospitals terribly." And they prescribed her injections for another month. He begged, persistently persuaded, and in the end, Uliana agreed. The mother and son lived in a small two-room apartment on the outskirts of town. Getting there was difficult. The bus only took them to the end of the line. Then it was another 10-minute walk. But since Uliana had promised, they had to take the bus. The nurse carried out the doctor's orders and was very helpful. Roman paid her generously with compliments for this. And in the end, he was even ready to offer her his hand in marriage instead of money. "You see, Uliana, I have no work at all right now. And my mother is disabled. Everything goes on medication. Here, take everything you have. I can't give you more." He held out the envelope, but Uliana just shook her head. "Let's call it volunteering," she said, and was about to leave. Roman stopped her at the door. "You are such a wonderful woman. Maybe we can meet again. Do you need another course of injections?" "No. I need you." He spoke fluently. He was younger than Uliana, quite attractive, and interest shone in his eyes. For a woman who had gone through a painful divorce and lived without her husband for many years, these words were unexpected and pleasant, like balm for the soul. Besides, she loved feeling needed. And Roman's mother always looked at her so warmly and said she was praying for her health. Their relationship developed slowly. Uliana was cautious, and Roman seemed to be waiting, adjusting. That evening, Uliana invited him to her birthday party. They weren't planning many guests. A friend, Lesia, and her grandmother. The daughter greeted her mother's man warily, but said nothing. Vera Lvovna also didn't intervene, although the distrust in her eyes was noticeable. When the guests left, Uliana confided to her mother, "Mom, I think I'm happy. He's such a good man, and his mother is simply perfect. It's a shame she's sick and doesn't go out much. Would you get along with her?" "So, are they looking for a nurse or a wife for Roma?" Lesia asked with a sarcastic smile. "Roma's mom takes care of herself. And as for courage, well, I've already been there," Uliana said sheepishly. Lesia wanted to object, but she had her own concerns at the time. She was preparing to enter medical school. There was no time to seriously discuss her mother's relationship. Meanwhile, Roman was spending more and more time with Juliana. He'd drop by after work, help her carry her bags from the store. One day, he came over and saw she was upset. "Are you crying? What happened? My daughter's getting into college. She wants to go study in another city." "That's so good." Roman rubbed his hands together gleefully. "Good." "Yes, but I'll miss you. I don't have anyone except them and my mom. You have me, my dear, and I won't let you get bored," he said confidently. When Lesia enrolled and left, the apartment became empty. That's when Roman moved in with Yuliana Nikolaevna permanently. His apartment on the outskirts was small, and Yuliana felt uncomfortable moving into someone else's apartment, especially sharing it with another landlady. Roman didn't insist. His mother could take care of herself. True, she had to take her groceries, do her treatments, and clean the apartment. But Yuliana Nikolaevna didn't think about that. The main thing was that she and Roman had moved in together, and to avoid any unwanted glances, they married a year later. Roman quickly settled into the apartment, visiting his mother less and less. "I'll be working until late, so why don't you go see my mother?" he told Juliana. And she agreed. She couldn't abandon the elderly man. Her mother-in-law hadn't lived long. She was a modest and quiet woman, and she passed away just as quietly in her sleep. Yuliana Nikolaevna mourned the loss sincerely. Roman's mother treated her with warmth. Roman seemed dejected, too. But soon a new idea entered his head. "We need to trade Mom's apartment for a country house. Why? We'll plant flowers and breathe fresh air," he said. "Maybe it would be better to rent it out." "No. Yulia, I've already decided everything. I'll buy a country house and buy a car with the rest." "Is that enough?" Yuliana Nikolaevna raised an eyebrow. "So this is already jointly acquired. If it was acquired jointly, then we should invest it equally. I know you've got some money saved up. It's for your daughter's wedding," Yuliana said doubtfully. "You'll earn some more. I'll drive a taxi when I buy a car. Anyway, we'll save up." Yuliana Nikolaevna thought about it and withdrew her savings. She needed the car for driving to the dacha, and Roman spoke confidently, as if he knew everything. Uliana Nikolaevna trusted him. When Lesia learned that her mother had given her the money she'd been saving for her wedding, she was deeply offended. But she couldn't stay angry with her mother for long. She knew arguing was pointless. Her mother had already invested, and the money would never be returned. After buying the dacha, the novel disappeared there more and more often. He needed to plant, weed, and paint. He had a lot to do. "Oh, well, my weekends are booked with trips, so I can't," Uliana Nikolaevna replied. The promised part-time job driving a taxi had somehow faded away. But a new idea had emerged: growing zucchini for sale. Everyone loves zucchini, the man assured her. They'll sell like hotcakes at the market. Juliana shrugged. Things were going well for her. She got a job at a private medical facility, made house calls, and earned enough money that his fantasies didn't particularly bother her. They lived like that until one of her former colleagues told Yuliana Nikolaevna an interesting fact. "A nurse friend of mine told me a guy was pursuing her," the colleague said, squinting. "He looks a lot like your novel." "Nonsense. It can't be. She sent me this photo. He came to get her teeth fixed and told her she had a light touch. And he really needed her to give his mother some injections." "Mother. Then it definitely wasn't him. Roma's mother died." Uliana Nikolaevna shuddered. "I think you need to keep an eye on your affair. He's cheating on her. Keep in mind, all these injections were just pretexts to lure young nurses." Juliana didn't believe her friend at the time. She thought she was simply jealous. Since she hadn't been hired by the same organization where Yuliana Nikolaevna worked, the woman assumed it was all a lie. But Roman was soon caught. One day, Yuliana Nikolaevna saw her car on her way home from work. The woman looked closer and noticed Roman was riding with a blonde. She herself was swaying on the bus at the time, pressed against the window by the rush hour crowd. Thinking her husband was planting zucchini at the dacha, Roman didn't deny it. "You're not exactly fresh anymore. And I love young nurses," he said without shame. Uliana sat down. What my colleague said turned out to be true. "So, since you know about Masha and me, pack your things and go." Roma continued. "Where to my apartment?" Uliana Nikolaevna turned pale. "We're married. We'll split everything equally." But I sold my apartment, so I have nowhere to live. And you and Mom can live at the dacha. Okay, I'll give you the dacha. And you can free up my apartment. How can this be? Olesia, she'll get married and live with her husband. And Nikolai's not my yard. And maybe I want another child. You definitely won't give birth to me. And Masha is only too happy. She's still young. Roman said a lot of things to Juliana that evening. And she was so upset that she couldn't stop crying, trying to persuade Roman to change his mind. So, anyway, I don't want to cry and I'll go to the dacha. And you calm down and get everything ready for the move, he said as a parting shot and left. Lesia suspected something was wrong when her mother didn't call. Usually they talked on the phone every day. But now her mother wasn't calling or picking up. Lesia asked her grandmother to go and check on her mother. Vera Lvovna arrived the next morning to find her daughter in tears, pale and haggard. Juliana even took a day off from work due to her health. Lesia arrived that evening. Together with her grandmother, they tried to bring her back to her senses. Mom, get up, this scoundrel isn't worth a single tear from you. Lesia pleaded. I can't. My life is over. Uliana Nikolaevna wailed. He told me to move out. I'll be left alone in my old age and homeless. No one will give him anything. Vera Lvovna said. No. Mom. Let them take everything. I don't need anything. Juliana was in despair and sobbed even harder. Lesia talked to her grandmother, and they decided we need to put Roman in his place. Lesia went to the dacha with her boyfriend, Yegor. Roman greeted them harshly, refusing to let them into the house. Mind your own business. It dismissed. Mother and I will sort this out ourselves. She already promised me she'd move out in a week, and it's not your place to tell her what to do. You have a week, Roman, to pack your things and move out of Uliana Nikolaevna's and this dacha, Yegor said crisply, straightening his shoulders. Why is that? Roman lounged on the sofa, making it clear to everyone that he didn't care what his stepdaughter's boyfriend had said. Because the property they had jointly acquired would be sold, the dacha was purchased during the marriage. The car, too. All of this would be sold and divided equally. Lesia's boyfriend explained clearly. And what if you show up at Juliana Nikolaevna's again and get on her nerves? What exactly did Yegor say next? Lesia couldn't hear anymore. She felt stuffy in the room and hurried outside. But from then on, Roman was afraid to even approach his now ex-wife's apartment. Roman really had to put the dacha and car up for sale. No matter how much Juliana Nikolaevna claimed she didn't need anything. Her daughter and Vera Lvovna talked her out of it. And she got back the money she'd been withdrawing from the account for her daughter. Now her money was back with interest. However, the young couple thought about it and decided it would be better to pool their savings and take out a mortgage. Roman disappeared from their lives. Rumors surfaced. Occasionally, someone saw him with a nurse. They knew. Someone said he was renting an apartment, but Juliana tried not to listen. The first months were difficult. She often cried in the evenings and couldn't sleep for a long time. It seemed like all her years had been wasted. She tried to work more, but she came home broken. Gradually, things got better. Her mother and her daughter's support were a great help. But the real reboot came later. After the birth of her granddaughter, Juliana Nikolaevna finally realized that the meaning of her life was right there. Tiny as it was, but definitely worth living for.